Trails In, Bandits, and Badlands tour is truly nothing short of spectacular. It offers our guests some of everything, from challenging roads, historical sites, and points of interest that are unique to Bolivia. From the very moment that you step off your plane in Santa Cruz on Sunday, your tour begins. We'll personally be waiting to pick you up at the airport with a clearly marked sign. Just a short drive down the road, we'll spend the night at a nice hotel in downtown Santa Cruz where you can take a swim and rest from your travels. After having breakfast Monday morning, we'll set out for our hilltop cabins above the town of El Torno to drop off our luggage. Next, we head down to our base to get acquainted with our bikes, gear up, and set off on our first adventure, out into the luscious Santa Cruz countryside. Only a few minutes into our day's excursion, we'll cross a hanging bridge that spans the Piraí River. We'll cross around 30 streams, pass through several small communities, and get to see many large citrus groves along the way as we make our way to Amparo National Park. Today's destination is a little-known place called El Jardín de las Delicias, where we'll get to experience a series of breathtaking waterfalls and even rappel alongside one of them before heading back to El Torno for supper and a briefing. After a delicious breakfast Tuesday morning, it's time to gear up and let the real adventure begin. The road we're on is in great shape, so we'll eat up the miles in the straight section and then later transition into the hills and twisties. For a portion of the day, we'll be riding next to the Bolivian Chaco, so by the time we reach our destination, the town of Villamontes, will be hot. Thankfully, the night's accommodations include a swimming pool to help us cool down after a long day in the saddle. Wednesday morning, we set out on a day's ride that's hard to rival no matter where you are. As we depart, it's all off-road. You want to have your camera ready and your GoPro recording, as our route involves following alongside the Pilcomayo River, including a narrow section of road that is quite literally cut out from the side of the mountain, just wide enough for one vehicle. Later, we'll arrive at our destination, the city of Tarija, located in Bolivia's wine country. Before arriving, we'll make sure to stop at a couple of local wineries to sample some of the region's best wines. Following breakfast, Thursday brings with it a different kind of scenery as we ride straight through the Samba Mountain by way of a long tunnel and then up into the high plateaus. It's a somewhat similar feel to riding in the high plains near the city of La Paz like we do on some of our other tours. It's usually today that many riders get a sense of elevation that we're riding at, as we'll be riding in excess of 10,000 feet for much of the day. In the afternoon, we arrive to Tupiza, a small town located down in the valley not far from the Argentine border. If you follow the Dakar Rally, this town may ring a bell for you, as the rally has passed through the outskirts of town the past few years. Barbecue will be on the menu for supper as we try out one of the most popular local dining spots. Friday is the most challenging riding day of the tour, but that's to be expected when we're following the tracks of the Dakar Rally. It's not the distance that we'll find challenging, but rather the rugged terrain that we'll encounter. Along the way, we'll stop for lunch in the desolate village of San Vicente, where Butch and Sundance were said to have been gunned down. We'll check out the sites where these two bandits were said to have drawn their last breaths. Make sure to have your camera batteries fully charged come Saturday, because today we're exploring the world-famous Uyuni Salt Flats. Since we're on a motorcycle tour after all, we're not abandoning our bikes in favor of a comfy 4x4 SUV. We'll do our exploring on our bikes, just like it should be. We'll start by visiting the train cemetery, then eat lunch at a hotel built of salt, before venturing further out into the salt flats to take some crazy photos on our way to check out Cactus Island. We'll wrap up the day by watching the sunset over the salt flats as we make our way back to town. After off-roading it for most of the past 2 days, Sunday we'll ride the tarmac all the way to the city of Potosí. The road is just a few years old, so it's in pristine condition and it's super curvy, so it's always a lot of fun. Potosí is an old mining town that sits at over 13,000 feet above sea level in the shadow of an old silver mine. The city is listed by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site and at one time was the richest city in the world. We take a break from the bikes on Monday as we spend all day exploring in and around Potosí. We'll check out the miners' market where you can even buy some dynamite. Just please don't try and take it back home with you. Afterwards, we're off to explore an active mine. Then after lunch, we'll venture further out from the city to swim in some hot springs that were used by the Incas years ago. Back on our bikes again Tuesday, we cruise through the mountains and drop down into the city of Sucre, the judicial capital of Bolivia. Nicknamed the White City, being in Sucre is like stepping back in time, as its old city center remains intact with its whitewashed walls and buildings that date as far back as the 17th century. We'll arrive early, so we'll have plenty of time to relax in the plaza, walk the streets, and check out one of the old markets. Wednesday's ride is a good one, and it's mostly in the dirt. Today's destination is the sleepy mountain village of La Higuera that was made famous by the Argentinian turned Cuban Revolutionary War hero Ernesto Che Guevara. On the way, we'll stop for lunch in a small town that is home to the world's largest charango. We'll spend the night at the same telegraph office where the then operator notified the authorities of El Che's presence, leading to his capture and execution. We get Thursday started off on the right foot with what many will consider the best breakfast of the entire tour. You won't be disappointed. Afterwards, we'll visit the memorial room where El Che was executed, and then later his corpse was put on display for the world to see. From there, we pack up and follow the dirt road to Valle Grande, where we'll get back on the tarmac and follow it through the mountains, arriving back in El Torno by mid-afternoon, where our tour began, with plenty of time to unload, shower, and relax before it's time for supper. The adventure continues on Friday, even though we're done with the bikes. In the morning, we'll leave our cabins for good after breakfast and set out for a day of exploring in Santa Cruz. Tasting local foods, souvenir shopping, and visiting local markets are all activities that we have on tap for today. After a proper send-off meal for supper, we'll take one last dip back in the hotel pool before calling it a day. Saturday is the last day of the tour, and it's always a low point for us as we take you back to the airport to catch your flight back home. We hope you'll be back to see us again soon.
Safe travels.